Hello everyone and welcome to my channel Telly Barta. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The Forrester estate had seen scandals before, but nothing like this. In the quiet opulence of Bill Spencer's living room, the air tasted of marble and menace. Luna collapsed at Bill's feet, trembling, tears making tracks down her face. "Please don't do that, Bill," she cried, the words cut through the room like a blade. What she carried inside her was not just any secret. It was Will Spencer's child, the seed of the Spencer legacy. And Bill, furious and unforgiving, declared that such a child had no place in his empire. His whole body moved like a caged predator, pacing, fists clenched, veins pulsing, every inch of him coiled with rage. He spat accusations, betrayal, shame, screaming that Luna had trapped his son, that she had seduced Will and now threatened to drag the entire family into humiliation. Luna's sobs became raw. She reached for Bill's hand, nails scraping the marble as she begged for mercy. She pleaded that nothing had been planned, that she never intended to hurt anyone, that her love for Will was real. But Bill's fury drowned out her pleas. His voice rang cold and absolute. He ordered her to end the pregnancy, insisted she go to the clinic and make it disappear. He promised ruin if she resisted. Her career, her dignity, her future in Los Angeles would be taken from her. Terror shook Luna to her core. She whispered that she could not, that she would not, because inside her was an innocent life she had vowed to protect. But Bill's shadow hovered like death itself. His mind was closed, his heart hardened by the conviction that this scandal could not be allowed to exist. Unbeknownst to them, Will had been listening from the hall. Pale, trembling, his chest shattered by the words, "abortion," and "my baby." In an instant, something inside him changed. The boy who had once idolized his father now felt his innocence peel away, replaced by a blazing, matchlit fury. He would not, could not, stand aside and let his child be erased. Luna's voice cracked under the weight of the threat. She clung to the last ember of strength she had, insisting that this was Will's baby, that it was their child. She whispered that one day Bill would regret trying to erase his own bloodline. Bill, blinded by his rage and obsession with control, declared the opposite. Will was too young, too reckless, and Luna had stolen his innocence. The room filled with the sound of a man convinced he must rewrite the future. Then the door burst open. Will stood there, pale, fists clenched, voice trembling but fierce, and cut through the chaos. "Stop it, Dad," he shouted. For the first time that night, Bill's fury faltered as his son's defiance met him head-on. The world seemed to freeze. Bill's younger son, the boy he'd raised in his own image, was now standing between him and the woman he loved. Will's words hit harder than any blow. "This is my child. My baby. I won't let you take it away." Bill staggered, stunned that Will would defy him. For decades Bill had been the iron hand behind the family, and now that hand met a rock of resistance. Bill sneered, called the relationship a trap, accused Luna of cynical manipulation. Luna collapsed, shaking, clutching at Bill's wrist, her voice breaking as she swore she loved Will and that the child was a miracle, not a scheme. Will's face crumpled with pain and anger. He refused to let the man who had built an empire from ruthlessness dictate his life. "You don't get to decide that," Will said, voice raw. "This is my life. This is my family." In Will's eyes, Bill saw a reflection of his younger self, the same stubborn fire, the same fierce will. It stung him more than any insult. Bill's answer was the ultimate power play. "If you walk down this road, will you walk away from me? From everything I've given you?" he demanded. He dangled loyalty like currency and threatened to strip Will of every comfort and privilege. It was an ultimatum designed to fracture the man who stood before him. Will met Bill without flinching. "If it means protecting Luna and our baby, I'll walk away from everything," he said. In that moment, the family line fractured. Bill's retort, "Then you're no son of mine," struck through the room like lightning. The words exploded the fragile web of identity Bill had woven around his sons. Luna gasped. Will's world rocked, but his resolve held. Bill's demeanor darkened into something harder, colder. He grabbed a glass of bourbon and slammed it down, hands trembling, eyes burning with a mix of anger and a stunned sort of disbelief. He saw betrayal not as personal pain but as an existential threat. Everything he'd built was at stake. At that instant Katie Logan appeared in the doorway, her presence like a gust of wind. She stood frozen, horror etched on her face as she took in Luna on the floor, and Bill towered like a storm cloud. "What's going on?" she demanded. Bill's lips curled with contempt as he called Will a fool, mocked Luna as a manipulative opportunist. And Katie, maternal, fierce, moved to Will's side. She cradled him, her protective instincts burning bright. "Pregnancy?" Katie whispered, shock and a mother's worry warring in her voice. The room held its breath as the truth landed. Luna sobbed and begged for understanding. Katie, furious, stepped forward and confronted Bill. "How dare you?" she snapped. "You have no right to speak of your son or your grandchild that way." Will steadied himself and spoke for both of them. "This is about me," he insisted. "This isn't about control or pride. It's about the family I want to build." His words, broken and honest, landed like stones in a glass house. For once, Bill had no effortless reply. The front doors flew open and more family poured in. Liam and Wyatt, summoned by alarm and gossip, forced their way into the room. Confusion flickered across their faces as they heard "pregnancy" and "Will's baby." Liam's voice carried authority. He had seen scandals and survived. "You can't do this, Dad," he said. Wyatt backed him, steady, blunt. The Spencers were no longer alone at Bill's feet. They had allied against him. In an instant, the dynamics shifted. Bill, the man who had crushed rivals and reshaped Los Angeles, realized he was facing a united front, his own blood standing together. His chest rose and fell. Pride warred with the ache of being opposed by the very sons he had raised. "If you want to betray me, fine," he growled. "Go ahead and sacrifice your lives for this. But don't come to me for help when it all falls apart." Katie stepped in, voice iron-laced with compassion. "You need your son, Bill, not a tyrant who threatens the people he should protect." Luna clung to Will, sobbing, as the weight of what had happened settled on the room like dust. The scene was more than a family fight. It was a turning point. It was a war over love and legacy, control and humanity. Will, once a boy shaped by his father's will, declared that he would, if necessary, give up everything he had known for Luna and their child. He chose love over duty, future over empire. That decision split the Spencer family in two, those who would stand with Bill's iron rule and those who would stand for something else, for compassion, for the right to choose a life of one's own. Bill's threat to destroy Luna, to force an outcome she could never ethically accept, revealed the worst of his power. He treated the unborn child as collateral, a piece in a chess game where the stakes were his reputation. That night, the Spencer mansion became the theater of a moral reckoning. Not just who would control the business, but who would control their hearts and choices. Will's courage lit a new kind of flame in the house, vulnerability matched with conviction. Katie's maternal rage became a shield. Liam and Wyatt's presence made Bill's calculations riskier. Luna, though terrified, held fast to her truth. She refused to surrender the life she carried or the man she loved. This conflict threatened to rip the family apart, and perhaps it already had. Bill had traded fatherhood for empire building too many times. When a son chooses love and family over the cold architecture of power, the architect has two choices: change or lose everything. Bill's pride bristled, and for the first time, his choices bore heavy consequences. Outside, Los Angeles would soon hear the rumble of this fallout. Friendships would be tested, alliances re-examined. The name Spencer, once synonymous with dominance, would be stained by a scandal Bill himself feared, because the real danger was not the gossip or the headlines. It was the erosion of his family's loyalty. By trying to control others' hearts, he had set in motion his greatest undoing. Back inside the mansion, the room trembled with raw emotion. Luna clutched her stomach as if to shield her unborn child from the venom in the air. Katie held Will like a lifeline. Will looked at his father and, for the first time, saw not a hero but a man who might lose the most important thing he ever had. It was a brutal, unavoidable truth. Power without empathy creates a kingdom of ghosts. Bill, eyes wild, slammed down the remnants of his shattered glass. He could not comprehend why his children would choose vulnerability over safety, love over calculable advantage. He'd been king of consequences for far too long to imagine surrendering the script he'd always written for them. But the script was being rewritten now, by a son who would risk everything. The family's voices rose and fell, each one revealing fracture lines in long-standing loyalties. Will's declaration echoed still, "I will not allow you to ruin my child. I will not allow you to ruin Luna." Those words were a vow, to protect, to stand, to love. And those vows change people. They fracture the complacent, sharpen the resolute. As midnight fell over the Spencer estate, the aftershocks began. What happens next would shape more than inheritance. It would shape who the Spencers would be to the world and to each other. A father who chooses control over compassion might yet find himself alone at the top of a hollow empire. A son who chooses love might lose comfort, but he would gain something Bill could never buy: a family built on choice. Luna's sobs softened into steady breathing as allies gathered around her. Will's jaw was set, lines etched with resolve. Katie's eyes were fierce with protection. Liam and Wyatt exchanged looks that said enough. Family lines had been redrawn. Bill stood in the center like a storm's eye, powerful, but suddenly exposed. The storm over the Spencer name had only just begun. The choices made tonight would ripple outwards, to the tabloids, to business partners, to friends who waited in the wings. But one thing had become clear: this was no longer just Bill's story to write. Will had spoken, Luna had borne witness with courage, and the rest of the family had chosen sides. When a man threatens to erase a life to preserve his image, it forces everyone to ask, what does family mean when loyalty comes at the cost of someone's heart? That question would not be answered easily. It would be fought over in whispers, in courtrooms, at dinner tables, and in boardrooms. It would be the catalyst for betrayals and reconciliations, for reckonings. Tonight, the Spencer dynasty faced a new kind of test. Could power bend to love, or would love be crushed under the weight of control? For now, as Luna clutched her stomach and the family separated into fragile camps of support and resistance, one truth shone through the wreckage. Will had chosen the life he wanted to build, not the life handed to him. He chose love. And sometimes, only sometimes, love wins. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this dramatic breakdown, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. What do you think Bill will do next? Will he change, or will he destroy the very thing he claims to protect? Stay tuned to Telly Barta for the latest spoilers and episode recaps.